group of fine people here with some good information to cover. First, I want to thank the rangers in the back. Everyone's going to produce some work for y'all through your woods, and you got some foresters. You know, the Southwest Georgia got hit the most. You got Mr. Rodney Hurd, Chris Cross, Chief Ranger Bishop Baker, Decatur Seminole, myself, and everybody on the rock hole from Miller Early. October 10th was a day that we will never forget. You know, everything we had got destroyed. We've got some good programs. The one I'm going to talk about tonight is going to be about the Forest Road fire break cleared. This is the form that's on the internet. Plenty of them up here. You can go to georgiatrees.org. If you lose yours tonight or misplace it or know someone that needs it, just go to georgiatrees.org and follow the steps of the hurricane debris. The important thing to remember is that this is your address to send it back to. This does not go back to the county units. And there's 2 different drop boxes for each program. So just try to send them back there if you can. That way we're not just swamped with about the units. A couple of things. The first main thing is that we can't just come and cut free fire breaks. This is for pre-established roads through your woods, fire breaks that you already had. It was pre-established and damaged by the storm. We can't just come and put you in any new fire breaks or food plots or 2 paths to your deer stand. It must be canopy cleared over. If you do have a clear cut and it was damaged, your neighbor's property was damaged from the storm, their trees are on yours, we can come clean that stuff out. But as far as a clear cut, just cut breaks, if there's not any damage, we can't do that. For your bigger landowners in here, and it's going to happen, we're only allowed 25 hours up front. That way we can ensure that everybody gets serviced in a timely manner. There's a pile of acres throughout these counties that's got to be serviced. So what that means is we can come work on your place for 25 hours. We'll come back, but we've got to make, once everybody else is taken care of, or we've determined it's too wet to get on somebody else's, then we'll come back to you. That way everybody's getting what they need done. The deadline for our program, this is important because there's 2 different deadlines, but the deadline for our program is going to be February the 28th is the last day to apply. Mr. Steve will go through his later. BMPs. A lot of y'all ask what BMPs are. That's the things where y'all see us on wildfires or cutting breaks. Y'all always say we don't want them. We still got to put them in. That's about it. Y'all got any questions, or it's pretty self-explanatory.
What's that last term? BNP?
BNP. It's a best management practices. Okay. Water diversions. We don't want any water standing in the fire breaks. We do it on wildfires or pre-suppression breaks.
Are y'all going to do this on every landowner, regardless if the money's up? I understand you have $20 million allocated to 28 counties, of course, what I read a while ago. Do y'all think that's enough money to get where you want to go with everybody 25 hours?
Well, we can cut more than 25. So he asked, are we going to have enough money to cover everybody in the 25 hours? We can cut as many hours as you need, but we can only do 25 at a time. And then we'll come back and finish you. Once we're out of customers, or, me and Rodney and Chris work good together. They have a little bit more woods than we got. I can send rangers down there to help him. And as far as the money goes, I think we did a figure, and we're good on money as far as the fire breaks. We haven't cut that much.
What if we have our own equipment or hire somebody else to do it?
For your fire breaks or your woods?
Woods.
Your woods, Mr. Steve's going to hit on that program. But if you clean your own fire breaks out, that's going to fall under that program. For you to get your roads or fire breaks cleaned out, Georgia Forestry will have to come do that for it to be granted in this program.
If you've already cleared your road, you're saying that needs to go through Steve's program, the FDMP?
Yes, sir, it's all retroactive.
Yeah.
Back to October
Keep
10th.
record of everything. and
Yes, sir.
Cost itemized.
Yes, sir.
If you've already cleared your roads, but your roads no longer look exactly like roads, can the forestry unit come straighten the roads and the fire breaks out?
Yes, ma'am.
When you said the canopy, that's what I was concerned about.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mike.
Ross, your cutoff date is February 28th. Does that mean you're gonna wait until then to start work on it?
No, sir. No, sir, we've already started work. Some of you already had work done previously we've gotten in contact with. If you've already paid your invoice, the state, we've already turned all that in, they'll reimburse you for the people that's had it done. The important thing to remember is it's wet, but we've got to June the 30th of 2020 to get this work done. But when it gets dry, we're gonna have wildfires, so we've still got to maintain fire control. So you lock in our offices one day and there'll be 2 tractors sitting there, and you're wondering why you ain't cleaning my brakes, but we still got to maintain fire control.
Rock,
Yes, sir.
if you've got a track in between county lines, is that 25 hours per county?
It's per landowner, Mr. Bill. Did everybody hear this question? If you got landowners in multiple counties, or land in multiple counties, it's 25 per landowner.
Get your notes back. Might be dangerous if I start talking to your notes. Folks, good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Chuck Williams. I'm the Director and State Forester of the Georgia Forestry Commission. I work out of our Macon headquarters and live up in the Athens area. And again, thank you all for being here tonight. I think the turnout tonight is very indicative of sort of the issues that y'all have faced since October 10 and continue to face. And what we wanted to accomplish tonight was to share with you some information about these programs that the legislature and the governor approved back in November in the special session, and hopefully we will accomplish that. I know we're going to generate some questions. That's obvious from Rock's presentation, and really he was just sort of hitting the highlights of what it is we want to cover tonight. But we'll try to between us get all those questions answered. You know, the dynamics of this storm, I don't have to tell y'all know much better than we what Hurricane Michael did to particularly this part of the state and really the whole storm path. And what we as an agency did really, you know, before the winds quit blowing, if you will, we were already thinking and working on what can we do to help Georgia's timberland owners, really all Georgia's, but obviously Georgia's timberland owners, deal with the devastation that you have faced and try to deal with the immediate recovery issues that you had, and then longer term. We started thinking pretty quickly about forest health issues, about you know, the way we calculated it, there's about 1.5 million log truck loads of wood that were put on the ground in Georgia in that 3 or 4 hour span of Hurricane Michael. And we started thinking about what are the forest health issues that brings with it, insects and disease and whatnot, particularly if you've got residual stands that you know, there were enough stems left where you're going to try to manage that stand rather than just, you know, totally clear cut it if Michael didn't clear cut it for you and site prep it and replant it in wildfire. You know, at our core, we're very much a fire protection, firefighting agency. And we started thinking immediately about with that much wood volume on the ground, as it starts to dry out, what are going to be the wildfire implications? And that's really where sort of the subset of the debris program that we're talking about tonight, the fire break and the forest roads program came in, recognizing that for you as landowners and we as the Forestry Commission, if we do end up in an elevated wildfire risk situation, if fire breaks that you normally keep open and woods roads that you normally keep open are still blocked, we can't get in there and fight fire as effectively as we need to. So that's the reason that we worked to carve out some of the money that the legislature earmarked for the debris program, specifically for fire breaks and roads. I can tell you this, we've obviously sworn in a new governor as of last week since Hurricane Michael came through. Governor Deal was very attuned to what was going on in the storm path, and evidence of that was him convening the legislature in November for that special session. You know, they don't get together outside of regular session normally, and for it to happen as a result of a natural disaster, typically the state, particularly as it relates to ag disasters, sort of defers to the feds, to USDA in particular for ag disaster programs, and traditionally there's just never been much there for timberland owners. As most of you know, the federal programs for timberland tend to be rather limited, and usually the state sort of stays on the sidelines for all of that. And when the legislature came together in November, they appropriated some serious dollars for ag and forestry. In particular, what we'll talk about tonight, the forestry programs, you know, everything has to have an acronym in government, so the Forestry Debris Management Program, you'll hear us refer to it as FDMP, FDMP, FDMP. They appropriated $20 million for that program. And again, the legislature's driving thought process there was forest health and wildfire. At the same time, the legislature, and this wasn't just your delegation, you know, members from here in Southwest Georgia, legislators from all over the state thankfully recognize the importance of forestry and timberland to the state for a lot of different reasons. And part of what they said their objectives were was to keep timberland in timberland. And so you will see as we talk about some of these programs that they're designed to hopefully help you, not force you, but help you make a decision, if you will, to keep timberland in timberland, even though a lot of people who had timberland investments are a little bit put out of those investments right now, and that is understandable. I know probably a lot of you in here have production ag interest as well as timberland. I want to say that the partnership of different state agencies working together really showed itself in the aftermath of Hurricane Michael. Within less than a week after the storm came through, we were down here in your region and in your towns and communities with Ag Commissioner Gary Black, who obviously is very involved in some relief programs for production agriculture. The leaders of the state legislature, particularly the appropriations folks that we view needed to understand what was happening down here before they could make a good decision about whether or not to allocate any of the state's dollars down here. And again, the leadership and guidance we were getting out of Governor Deal's office. As soon as the election was over and finally settled, and Brian Kemp won the election to be Georgia's next governor-elect, Commissioner Black and I were talking to Governor-elect Kemp within just a few days of the election, and we said, we really need to ask you to carve out some time between now and you taking office in January, and let's get down to Southwest Georgia and see what's going on. And Governor-elect Kemp at the time, his scheduling staff basically said, he's booked up, we don't know how we're going to do it. Next thing we know, our phone is ringing, and this Governor-elect Kemp himself says, I can get down there a week from Saturday if y'all can we make it happen? And as a result of that, Governor-elect Kemp and Commissioner Black and I were able to spend a full Saturday down here looking at what was going on, meeting with landowners, meeting with farmers, so that Brian Kemp, when he was sworn in this past week as Georgia's 83rd governor, fully understood what was going on down here and was prepared to make those decisions that the governor needs to make with full knowledge about what's going on there. So we are working, the Forest Debris Management Program, the legislature, I think, recognized that our wagon was loaded and was going to be loaded. So we're partnering with the Georgia Development Authority, which is basically an ag lending authority under the auspices of the Georgia Department of Agriculture. Commissioner Black serves as their board chairman. They have a loan program that they have rolled out that some of you may be familiar with for production agriculture. GDA, Georgia Development Authority, will also be running the backroom operations for us, if you will, of the debris management program. They're depending on us to work with the landowners to basically decide how to deal with that debris that's in the woods and pecan debris, and if there's any fruit tree debris, and we will be working with you as landowners there trying to figure out what to do and how to deal with it. And then Georgia Development Authority, once we tell them that we're comfortable that you as landowners have done what you need to do, then they will basically be writing the check. So we're working closely with them on that program. As I said, the fire break and the woods and the forest road program is sort of a subset of that. The legislature didn't really specify that was a separate program. And we basically went back to the legislative leadership and back to the governor's office several weeks ago and said, we feel a strong need to basically know that we've got some dedicated dollars to get these fire breaks cleaned back up and back doing their purpose, as well as forest roads. And thankfully the legislative leaders and the governor's office basically said, y'all know better than we know exactly what you need out there. Y'all just get it done and make it happen. So we're thankful that they gave us that latitude. And again, we'll talk in more detail about those programs in a few minutes. Another significant program that I just want to mention to you, as much to try to eliminate confusion as anything, is a program that's not yet ready to roll out, and that is a tax credit program. You may have heard bits and pieces. The legislature appropriated, in my mind, a huge sum of money, $200 million for a tax credit program, basically for losses to casualty losses to timber or pecan groves. And without getting too deep in the weeds, because again, that program is really being run by the State Department of Revenue. We and the Ag Department are assisting them sort of with the logistics of that. But since it is a tax credit program, Revenue is running it. But in a nutshell, it is predicated if you file or intend to file a casualty loss claim or deduction on your federal tax return, that sort of, you can apply, and that gets you a place in line with the State of Georgia Department of Revenue for that program. It is predicated specifically, the legislature was very clear on this, it is predicated on you either replanting or reforesting. And we've got a little bit of latitude there. It doesn't necessarily mean putting a new seedling in the ground. It can mean natural regeneration. It can mean managing a stand that still has enough residual stems per acre to be a viable piece of timberland, if you will, or pecan orchard. And that program will entitle you with a limit of $400 per acre, depending on how far the money goes, to claim a tax credit on your state tax return. You may be saying, well, look, we've taken such a whammy, we're not going to have any taxable income, so what good is the tax credit going to do us? The state recognized that, so when that program rolls out, you will also be able to either transfer that tax credit to a tax credit broker, and typically you would not get dollar for dollar, you'd sell it at a little bit of a discount. Or if you're willing to wait on the state to process the paperwork, you can actually get a direct payment. I'm sure when that program rolls out, and the Revenue Commissioner told me this week that she is aiming to have that program out on the ground by the end of March, and you may say, why are we waiting so long? Well, again, if you think about it, you have to basically be filing your federal tax return to get a place in line on that one. Most of us are not filing our federal tax returns here in January, so that one has got a little longer lead time on it, and it's going to be an online application. Revenue is emphatic that they want it to be online, so they're having to do some programming. I feel sure that once that program is ready for prime time, that we, Extension Service, working with Department of Revenue, will be back doing these same kind of meetings to more in detail inform you what's going on there. But I wanted to mention that one tonight because some of you probably already heard about it, and if we don't talk about it, you'll be thinking, why didn't they talk about that $200 million tax credit program? So that one is in the process, and we'll talk more about it when it is ready. Part of the challenge we've had, we and Ag and Revenue, in putting these programs together, if you remember back, when the legislature convened in November for their special session, they were only in session 4 or 5 days. So a much faster timeline than the legislature normally takes to put legislation together and for it to go through the normal committee process before it ever gets to the governor's desk. So quite honestly, these programs were put together at the legislative level as far as the funding for them, without a whole lot of specifics in some case about the specifics of the program. Basically, the legislature told Ag and us and Revenue, here's the money, y'all know what we want to accomplish. We want to help South Georgia recover, and we want to keep forest and forest, and we want to keep folks growing pecans that are growing pecans. Y'all figure out how to make it work. So we've had sort of some long days and even into some long evenings trying to figure out really how do we balance the legislature's intent to get money on the ground and help y'all and still run a program that is clean, that we can all, 2 or 3 years from now look back and say, that worked, rather than looking back and saying, that was a boondoggle, that was a mess, can't believe we allowed ourselves to get into that. So that's sort of the balance we've been trying to strike is getting money, getting support, getting help out to you, but yet being good stewards of the state tax dollars, because again, these are real dollars. I've told people that, if you look at Georgia state capital and the U.S. capital, in some ways they look similar. But there's a real big difference. The Georgia state capital does not have a printing press in the basement that the state can print money with. Georgia has to run a balanced budget, and so every dollar that we spend as an agency, we view that as a hard dollar that the taxpayers earned and then sent into the state, so we feel a strong commitment there to run a good tight program and at the same time help y'all get done what you need to do. The question came up a minute ago on the debris program, is $20 million going to be enough? And we don't know. So for that reason, rather than sort of taking a first come, first serve approach to applications, we are taking an approach where there's, I think, a 4-week window for applications to come in. So you don't have to worry about rushing to beat your neighbor to get that application in. We're going to let those applications come in over a 4-week period, and then we will look and get an idea about how far will that $20 million go. I was at the Capitol earlier today for budget hearings, and the question came up for us and Ag, is what we've appropriated enough? And our answer is we don't know. We're in the process of taking applications now, and in the coming weeks we'll have a much better feel for whether or not the amount of money that's already been allocated really is enough to move the needle or not. And the legislature's indicated if we need to talk to them about more money, that's a conversation they're at least willing to have. So that's the reason that we're using an application period. Conversely, for the fire break and the roads part of it, we're taking those on a first come, first served basis because we feel like there's an immediate need there, particularly due to wildfire risk if it ever does stop raining, to actually get that work done out in the field. So that's the reason there's a little bit of difference there. The last thing I'll say to wrap up is, again, I told you the legislature did this on a fast track, and we appreciate that. But you may have some questions tonight that we're not able to answer. And we have told the legislature that we're going to reserve the right, if you will, to keep some of these things a little bit open-ended. While y'all are submitting applications, we're dealing with questions that are popping up every day. And again, there's no book that we can pull off the shelf that says, here's the exact answer to these questions. You may pose some questions tonight, but we'll have to tell you we don't know. We'll put that on the list and we'll take it back and talk about it. We feel like that's the most fair way to let you get your applications in and know that something's working, but we do have to reserve that right to run the program. And if the money is not adequate, possibly prorate it. If there's more applications for the dollars than what the dollars are, and the legislature basically were to say, we've probably done all we can do on that, then then we make it into a proration scenario where we, again, to try to help as many people as possible in a substantive manner that we will end up prorating some of that. With that, that's all I've got. Again, we'll be up here, and after we talk about specific programs, we can certainly open it up for general questions anybody has. So, Rock, who's next? Steve, you're next.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Martin. If you don't know me, I cover the counties of Early, Miller, Kicker, Seminole, and Grady. And since October 10th, I have really been busy. Okay? I was glad to hear Mr. Williams refer to the Forest Debris Management Program as FDUMP. Sounds kind of irreverent to me. But if you call it FDUMP, I'll call it FDUMP. Okay. Let's get into some of the specifics in this program. And I want to say, this is a real deal. I'm telling you. I want to be transparent with you. I'm not a citizen of the state of Georgia. I actually live in Alabama. When your legislature stood up and did this, boy, I'll tell you what, I really took notice of that. $20 million is a lot of money in my life, and it probably is in yours too. But I will tell you, from a manager's standpoint, this stuff that's laying on the ground out there, it's not only a fire hazard, it's a forest health problem, and it's a general management problem. And for the legislature to recognize that, that's pretty big that's a pretty huge deal in my book. So, let's talk about some of the specifics on this thing. Okay, it's designed to help landowners with damage to their forest land